handoff, Adrian up the middle, room to the 20, cuts to the left to the 25, and Adrian's loose! He splits the defense! 50, 40, 30, goodbye, baby! Touchdown!
We bleed purple, and our bones are gold. Hear the horns coming out of our dome, behold. We are Minnesota Vikings fans. We love when a player scores, we roar, ignite the stands.
Vikings fans, you are listening to the Purple People podcast. My name is Kyle West, and I got Adam Carlson along with me. What's up, Adam?
I'm just right here. I'm getting ready to talk about some Vikings football with you. I'm kind of sad because our buddy and co-host, Mr. Kyle Smith, is not with us tonight. I'd like to wish him the best in whatever's going on for him, and I hope that he can be back next week to join us and talk Vikings football.
Mm-hmm.
But the show must go on, so let's go into episode number 146 of the Purple People podcast, and this one is titled The Dark Kafka. Now, I don't know if you've seen The Dark Half. It's one of my favorite movies. Stephen King novel, directed by George A. Romero. Just fantastic. If you haven't seen it, check it out. If you like horror. If you don't like horror, it'll probably make you poop your pants, so I'd avoid it if you don't like pooping your pants and you scare easy.
Which maybe, if Mike Kafka ends up being our starting quarterback, you would have to poop your pants, because that means something horrible happened to Teddy Bridgewater. But I digress. We don't want to go there.
The whole way down. That's not good. But as you can tell from the title of the show, one of our first quick hits is that the Vikings signed quarterback Mike Kafka. Now, it's unbelievably hard for me not to say Kafka, like Franz Kafka, the author of The Metamorphosis. Really hard for me not to say that. And I know how a lot of our listeners are really particular about pronouncing people's names. So I'm trying to be really careful here.
Yeah, and somehow it was me who was like the world's worst person to pronounce people's names. Somehow managed to correct Adam that it was pronounced Kafka.
I don't know, man. It's that literature. That's what it is, I tell you. That's what it is. But to make room for Kafka on the roster, the Vikings released quarterback Pat Devlin. And sadly, Mr. West was thinking about doing a comparison of the two for this week's show. And now that information can pretty much go right out the window.
Yeah, Rick Spielman gone and threw a monkey wrench into that old segment. I thought would have been at least interesting to do like a tail of the tape to compare them, but you've already deleted his name off the notes, and now I don't even remember who it was. What do you say, Pat Devlin?
Pat Devlin.
Pat Devlin is. We wish him well in his future endeavors.
I actually made a meme about him. It said, "Mama says football's the Devlin."
If I was in the mall tomorrow and he walked by, I would have no idea who it is.
Oh, that's sad. Pat Devlin.
Would you recognize Mike Kafka?
I don't know if I'd recognize anyone on the Vikings roster. I am that bad. Now, if I heard them talking, I'd be a little more likely to do it because all of my senses are basically set to listen. I'm not a very visual learner.
You know what? Quick story, because I know we don't have really a lot to talk about this week, so quick story time. That happens all the time in Mankato when we're up there watching the team practice. When they got their pads on, they got their numbers and stuff, you can kind of figure out who's who, but as soon as they're like in street clothes and you see the whole team kind of like filing out, man, even I have a hard time, like, okay, who exactly is this? Because you gotta remember, you got 93 different guys out there.
And coaching staff and trainers.
And people galore everywhere. So yeah, I hear ya. It's easy to spot guys like Adrian or Greg Jennings. Well, he's not with us anymore, but...
The more recognizable players. Like Cordero Patterson would probably be pretty easy to spot.
Oh yeah, you spot Cordero. You spot him by their dreads.
He's got an interesting hairstyle there.
Yep.
Don't see too much of that. Let's keep going into the quick hits, though. The Vikings signed defensive end Caesar Rayford. Now, he was one of the guys that was a participant at the Veteran Combine that, once again, everyone said was completely useless.
But hey, we got him and we got Kafka from the Veteran Combine, so
it's true.
Suck on that.
Although neither of them might make the roster, it's good to have them brought in and have some competition. Give these guys another shot, because that's, to me, what the Veteran Combine was all about. is getting these guys that had been out of the league for a little bit, give them a shot to just try to come back and achieve their dreams. And I wish the best for both Kafka and Rayford.
Me too.
The Vikings waived linebacker Justin Anderson and guard Jordan McRae. I gotta admit, I'm not very familiar with either of these players. I didn't take a lot of time to learn their names, and I feel kind of bad about that, but I always hate to see young players leave a team because I always hope they can develop into something. But I hope that these guys can find a nice career somewhere in the NFL.
There is a lot of really cool jobs at Winter Park that I would just love to do for the Vikings. I would take the trash out for the Vikings if they would pay me to do that. You know who has the worst job for the Minnesota
Vikings? The guy
Vikings?
that cleans the urinals at the old stadium?
Well, yeah, that, but no. Worse than that, I think.
Trough. Ugh.
Yeah, the horse trough. No, the guy who has to go around and be like, hey, we're releasing you, you gotta go clean your locker out. I don't know if that's Rick Spielman that does that. I don't know if they have someone else that does that, but telling a player that they are cut,
The dream crusher.
I could not do that. Could not do that. You watch Hard Knocks, don't you?
I actually haven't watched very much of them. I did see the one where T.O. was let go.
Yeah, they show that on Hard Knocks, and like that is, ooh, that's just tough stuff.
Yeah, I know that Hard Knocks is still a chance for Minnesota, right? That they can be assigned the spot if no one else is willing to step up.
I believe so. I haven't heard.
I mean, I'd like to be able to watch more Vikings football during the time when it's on break, but I don't know.
I kind of feel like the Vikings do a sufficient enough job on their own of posting unique videos like to their website and whatnot, and they air the one show. I catch it
Vikings
on my
Access or something like that.
Yeah, I catch it on my DVR. I record it. But I think they do a sufficient enough job of giving us access to the team. Like, we really don't need Hard Knocks. Like, if you're a Vikings fan, team's kind of got you covered.
It's true. My last quick hit, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, I understand that ESPN saying that Teddy Bridgewater is the top breakout player as far as second-year players in the NFL. But I remember last year around this time,
Cordero Patterson was
the hype. The hype train was Cordero Patterson. Everyone was expecting this huge blowout season, like 1,300 yards and a dozen or more touchdowns, and all these crazy, crazy numbers. And I want to temper my expectations on Bridgewater. I have high expectations for him, but I have to remember that he's a second-year player. Mm-hmm. He's got a lot of learning to do and a lot of developing. He's got this young offense, a lot of new players coming in, switching out. I think that maybe the hype train's getting a little out of hand.
Yeah, I that was exactly my thought too, Adam, is that when they said that he was the poised to have the breakout player of the year, I immediately thought of Cordero Patterson. But they're two very different players. I don't even want to get into comparing them. Different positions, for one thing, so why would you compare that? That's stupid.
Right.
But the circumstances, though, are quite similar between them. I feel like Teddy is going to have a good, solid season for the Vikings, whether or not that means Pro Bowl, playoff, blah, blah, blah. It's too early to get into that. Let's not go that far yet. Let's just hope that he continues to improve and be the franchise quarterback for the Vikings. Let's deal with Pro Bowls and all that other accolades.
I just want to see him continue to grow and develop.
Actually,
we didn't see that under some of our other quarterbacks. Christian Ponder, we always had the hope that he would take that step.
He never took it.
He never took it. I want to see Teddy Bridgewater start making those steps.
Yep. And you know what?
That's all about.
If Teddy never makes a Pro Bowl, but we win playoff games and win a Super Bowl underneath him, I'm fine with that.
Right.
Aren't you?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I'd rather have our Vikings in the Super Bowl instead of the Pro Bowl.
But I also don't want a quarterback that's mediocre and he's good enough to keep his job, but not great enough to be a good quarterback.
So you don't want Andy Dalton
syndrome.
Yeah, we don't want Andy Dalton.
That's what I kind of want the Vikings to avoid here. And and the Vikings will need Teddy Bridgewater to take that step to get to that point. So
I have a lot of faith in Teddy, and I truly believe that he can be like a top 5 quarterback. Don't you think so?
not next year.
Well, no, I'm
anywhere
not talking
near.
next year. I'm just talking like overall. Once he gets going, when you look and you go, hey, Teddy is in the prime of his career, Teddy will be a top 5 quarterback.
It's awesome that ESPN is saying that Teddy Bridgewater is a guy to keep an eye out for.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's the main thing to put your eye on here. It's not. I hope Teddy Bridgewater isn't reading all this, getting all this pressure, even though I know that he's the Gump and that he can handle a lot of pressure.
I don't think Teddy. He cares because he'll use it for motivation, but I don't think he really cares what ESPN says about him.
I think all these sports players listen and know exactly what's going on.
Oh, they do. I'm sure they do. But but Teddy, like I said, Teddy will spin it, and even though this is a positive, but I mean, if it was like a negative or whatever, he'll spin it, and it'll be motivation, and I don't think anything can really deter this kid from going out there and succeeding. I really don't.
You mean kind of like how he took the draft process and kind of spun that?
Yeah.
Between the pro day and the skinny knees and the gloves.
But he still tweets. Like, he makes jokes about pro days. He just tweeted that out a couple weeks ago. And it's so funny that, like, he still carries that with him. Like, it doesn't matter because look at my pro day, and then he's doing what he feels like he can do, and that's play really good football.
I still look back on that draft and can't believe that they got Barr and Bridgewater. I don't know how.
I was thinking about that too. I legitimately do not understand how all those teams passed on Teddy Bridgewater. Like, I understand the ones who, hey, we've got our...
I 100% thought Cleveland was grabbing Teddy.
Me too.
100%. But wow. Sure, I'm glad it ended up the way it is, and let's hope the best for Teddy Bridgewater next season. Speaking of next season, the key dates for the Vikings, mini camps and whatnot, were released. Here is the current schedule of events that's planned to go down. I know everyone's already knows about the April 15th deadline, where Adrian Peterson can be reinstated at that point.
Who cares? Be glad when it's over.
We got to mention him. Fans love him or hate him. At the very least, they talk about him. So who knows? April 15th, which is my birthday, so maybe he'll be reinstated for my birthday, maybe he won't, we'll see. April 20th, off-season workout programs can begin. April 24th is the restricted free agents for signing offer sheets. And April 30th to May 2nd is my favorite time of the year, the 2015 NFL Draft. If you've been following along with my draft profiles over on the Viking Age, you've been seeing that I've been profiling, I think I have over 50 of the prospects so far.
Ooh.
So well into maybe some second and third round prospects. Guys that maybe aren't getting the kind of attention that some of the top tier guys are. And I know that so much emphasis is placed on the first round, but so many great players can be found after that I think a lot of focus needs to be placed on those players as well. So head on over to the Vikings, check those out if you feel like it. Otherwise, we are going to be doing a lot of draft talking coming up because, hey, it's not that far away.
Another date I want to throw out there really quick too, super important one. July 27th, Vikings open training camp in Mankato, Minnesota. I talk about this quite...
You really jumped the schedule here, I tell you.
I go up there every single year. I encourage every Vikings fan, if you get it, go up there, man. It's free. You don't cost you anything to go in there. It costs you like $5 to park. Okay, but otherwise, it's free to go in the gates and watch the team. It's the best opportunity that you will have to get close to the players. They got autograph signings you can go to.
It's an awesome opportunity to shove kids out of the way and get some autographs.
Yeah, please don't do that. Seriously, do not shove the kids out of the way. Autograph collectors, we know who you are, and we see you, and we all make fun of you for doing that. So do not do that. I'll send my friend Rick out on you.
But let's go back and talk about some of the other dates.
Okay.
The first rookie minicamp is May 8th through 11th. Then the second one runs through the May 15th to 18th.
Mm-hmm.
The rookie symposium, which is another thing that I really like, and I always think is a great thing for rookies to help them adjust to the NFL, learn the rules, find out what's expected of them. That rookie symposium to me is one of the most important things that have to do with bringing these young guys in. I know there's a lot of emphasis placed on the draft and preseason, but that rookie symposium is really where it all gets started for that transition to the NFL.
See, I thought you were going to skip forward. That's why I jumped to training camp. So sorry about that. Out of thing there. Who do you think paid more attention at the rookie How do you say that?
Symposium.
Symposium. I wonder who made that word up.
That's not a made-up word.
That
Come
totally sounds made up. Who do you think paid more attention at the rookie symposium? Johnny Manziel or Teddy Bridgewater?
Well, the way you posed that question, I think it's maybe equal because I don't know what they're paying attention to. I think an equal amount of attention was paid.
No, I'm going to say Teddy probably paid closer attention than Teddy Bridgewater. Or than Johnny Manziel. Fuck, I can't talk. It's been a long day.
That at that symposium, they actually teach players how to invest their money, how to make sure that they can have a future where they're based in financial, I won't say freedom, but how they can live off what they make.
There's a fantastic video you should watch online of Herm Edwards talking. Oh, yeah. Have you seen it?
I have.
Yeah, so you know the one I'm talking about. I recommend that for almost anyone to sit down and watch, no matter what walk of life you are a part of, because he has some really sound, life advice that's really good that everyone should check out. Maybe we'll post a link to it sometime. It's a good video.
It absolutely is.
I love Herm Edwards, too. I really do.
He's a really interesting guy. Okay, let's get into our social media question for the week, because this week we asked another one that got quite a few responses this time. This time, we asked you guys what your favorite pre-draft move thus far is.
Cutting Charlie Johnson. That was my favorite reply.
That one has 2 thumbs up. I tell you, people are liking that answer.
Yeah.
People are talking about, of course, Mike Wallace, but it says besides Mike Wallace. But I can still understand the excitement of Mike Wallace. You gotta be
excited for Mike Wallace, even though, whatever. He's here now, he's a Viking, let's praise be Mike Wallace has a good season.
And there's a really strange amount of excitement for Babatunde.
Well, he's a really large guy, and so you have to be excited for really large...
Mr. Ayagbusi is giant.
Yes. How tall did we say? 6'9"?
6 foot huge, that's all I know. He makes me look like a Smurf. I'm 6 feet tall, tell you. Wow. I've got a couple people saying Taylor Mays. Peter Squires was talking about that, and he likes how he's a physical player. And I think that he's right that Taylor Mays will help out quite a bit on special teams. And they'll find some roles for him. They really will. Here's my favorite one. Steven has, I think, the best one on here. Chad Greenway. Not because it means anything, though I think that part's debatable, but it helps me believe in an organization I grew up in after the Winfield/Williams mishap. I wanted to see some Purple Boys to retire as Purple Boys. Very well put. Thank you, Steven. I, too, really wanted to see Antoine Winfield and Kevin Williams retire as a Viking. It's too bad that didn't quite happen. I am really excited that Chad Greenway is probably going to get his opportunity to retire as a Minnesota Viking. That's the way it should happen, and I hope that does happen for Chad. We only had one person, Mr. Ron Mitchell Jr., say that his favorite move was re-signing Sean Hill. And I think that really this Sean Hill signing is really under the radar. I think that it's a complete Matt Castle replacement. And I actually might think that Sean Hill might even be a touch of an upgrade. I don't know. If nothing, the salary difference is going to make up the difference there. Okay. And it's cool to see him back. It was a really good move for the team for a number of reasons. You were able...
to take advantage of a quarterback market that was so bad you could jettison Matt Castle out and get something in return for him.
Right.
Like you said, you
A
dump...
player that didn't want to be here. He wanted to move on.
Yeah, which, hey, no ill feelings towards
No.
Matt Castle. I like
He
what
wants to start.
Yes, rightfully so. He deserves that opportunity. Like you said, you save some money by getting rid of his contract, and you bring in Sean Hill, who we can make fun of for being like almost 80. But like you said, basically, it's the same player as what Matt Castle was. Maybe a little better. Who knows? I don't know. But
And Sean Hill seems like a much more willing mentor.
yeah, that too.
And that's what I really love about that signing.
I mean,
is that he brings a little bit more to the table.
Matty Castle was very smart in that he made sure that he always said the right things to the media about mentoring Teddy and whatever. And I do believe that he, would help him behind the scenes, because you never heard really any reports come out to say otherwise. But Sean Hill is more, I think he will fully embrace that role. You know what I mean?
I hope so.
Yep.
I really do hope
Yep.
so. All right, so we're trucking along in this show, and we'll move on to the next topic anyway, and talk about the team needs, our final team needs of the season.
Special teams.
Oh yeah.
Gonna go run laps with Farmer Fran.
I think that the return man positions are all set. We don't got to worry about that. We got Cordero Patterson. We got plenty of guys that can return the ball when needed.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to see any real changes as far as the punter or the kicker, despite how much people right now are not a big fan of Jeff Locke. I think we could see that turn around, but we will have a pretty interesting competition going on at the long snapper position, which is odd to say because it's the long snapper position.
Yes. Do you think, before we even get into it, that it will be a competition, or are they going to Ryan Longwell the situation and just sort of like
Say, hey,
release?
Kevin McDermott, here you go.
Yeah.
I think that Kevin McDermott having the experience of working with Jeff Locke in college is going to be a big plus.
Did he? I didn't even know that.
They went to the same school.
That is how little, not to brag on special teams, but that is how little I have researched him.
Oh, it's my job to research this stuff, man.
Yes, well, see, that is why you know everything.
And see, it's going to be really interesting to see, because I think that Kevin McDermott could have a real big impact on the punting game. I think that perhaps Locke will get things a little bit more under control. He'll be able to hold better. He'll be able to receive the snaps for his punts better. However, I do think that there is something to be said for the veteran experience of Colin Leffler and the injury history of Kevin McDermott.
I agree completely with you. I'm not laughing at your opinion, but I think that is the first and only time you will ever hear someone say veteran experience when talking about a long snapper.
Hey, it's so important.
It is true, because remember a few seasons back when Colin got hurt and we had that one jackass that came in and the snaps were like all over the place and it was like messing up the whole special teams unit.
You can't win the field position battle if you can't punt right.
No, so even though we make fun of the long snapper, it's an important part of that special teams unit.
It absolutely is.
So
that looks like it'll be the only competition. However, when we're looking at the special teams unit as a whole, there are going to be plenty of new faces going on as far as that goes. I think that we're going to see Taylor Mays, maybe even Casey Matthews, trying to earn a spot on special teams. It'll be really interesting to see how these new guys work out, because I think a lot of the positioning will come down to who can help in what other ways. That's the one thing I've always loved about the Vikings.
Precisely. And because, well, if Casey Matthews wants a job on this team, you earn it through special teams. Like, you show that you can contribute on special teams and that you're competent enough at your position, and then we will, okay, you're a young guy, we're going to work work with you, see what we can get, whatever. But it's like, yeah, you.
And Vikings fans have already seen this happen.
Mhm.
Audie Cole, Gerald Hodges, we've seen them on special teams now for a while, and they are pretty solid there.
Hey,
And when
not
they got their shot to step in, they played pretty well.
let's not forget about Adam Thielen. Like, here's a guy who made his name on special teams, and then he's out there making plays for Teddy as a receiver.
True.
And then he goes back on special teams and he's making plays again on special teams. So yeah, it's super important.
Special teams is the one facet of football that gets so overlooked, and it is a big deal. And I'm glad to see that special teams is being taken seriously by the Vikings, because they are an organization that needs to focus on the small things as well as the big picture. And a lot of organizations will look past some of the things and be, oh, we signed Leffler, we don't need to look for somebody else. We can worry about that next year.
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota doesn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
If they have an opportunity to bring someone in to compete that they think can actually do some sort of the job, they'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
Competition, youth, experience, they want it all.
And that's really what I look forward to most in training camp and preseason, is I really enjoy that period of time where you have 93 guys, or 93 or 95, however many it is, on the roster, and you can watch the young ones get out there and compete and see what they can do and see what they're made of. Because when it comes to your vested veterans, like your Chad Greenways or your Adrian Petersons or whatever, you know what you get when Adrian is out there in camp. Adrian don't really need to take reps in training camp, but it's fun to watch someone like Jerick McKinnon go out there and see.
True.
Let's see what Jerick can do and see what he's made of, or let's see what a
Dominique Williams or
yeah,
whoever,
or Casey Matthews, or what's Babs? What was the guy's name? Babatunde
Ayabusi.
Yeah, there you go. Let's see what that big guy can do when he's out there on the field. Like, that's what I really look forward to, and I love that aspect of preseason football.
Absolutely. Love watching these young guys grow and develop. And that was one of my biggest knocks on the Vikings when we first started this podcast.
Yeah.
I actually believe it was our first or second show. And I was complaining throughout one whole show that the Vikings didn't draft and develop their own people.
Yep.
And it was bad. It was like almost a 40-minute rant. And I'm so glad to see the Vikings finally moving in that direction and being able to do it.
A lot of people like to rag on Rick Spielman for whatever reasons. You play Madden, you think you're a GM, you think you can do better than Rick. Okay, fine, we get that. Right. But what I've just absolutely loved about essentially the moment he was given the job as the GM, decision maker of the team, no more of that triangular trio power crap that they had before. It turned into focus on the draft. We are not going to trade away our picks to bring in other players from other teams. We are going to draft and develop, because that is what the good teams do, guys. That's what the Packers do. The Packers draft and develop talent. And we know we all hate Green Bay, but that is a good model to adapt, because that's what the good teams do. That's what Green Bay does. That's what the Patriots do. I mean, you don't want to be the team that trades away all your draft picks and brings in aging veterans, and you have really short windows of opportunities to be good in. You want to be consistently good for long periods of time.
Now, while you're talking about that, let's give a little bit more credit where credit is due. Because the rebuilding period for the Vikings is unbelievably short.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's only been a couple of years since the Vikings made the playoffs and they decided to just completely switch everything around, bring in a whole new staff, draft all these young guys, move away from a lot of veterans. Sometimes that can take a franchise years to get past. It didn't take the Vikings long at all.
Yeah.
We're already talking about Minnesota looking at winning seasons and possibly heading into a playoff berth next season. And that is one of the most impressive things about this franchise.
Yeah. See, they had built kind of under the old philosophy of the bring in your veterans, whatever, in 2009. You know, when you bring in your Favres and you traded for Jared Allen previously.
Yep.
And that was kind of that old mentality. And you've seen how quickly that can go to hell in the 2010 season when that just
imploded,
fell apart. And that was all about, we all fell victim to just bring the band back together. You gotta get the band back together, bring Favre to town, and we'll be fine. And we were not fine.
No.
We were far from fine. But like you said, Adam, let's pick on the Raiders here for a moment. How long has it been since the Raiders were in the playoffs?
We're relevant? I don't know.
We're relevant. I mean, they have been stuck for I don't know how long, and I don't even know what the Raiders could do at this point.
They've had a couple smart drafts. They're moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
But it's taken them so much longer than it should have.
Yeah.
To move on and figure things out. They did the same thing that Minnesota did. Minnesota brought in Matt Castle. The Raiders brought in Matt Schaub. They were just trying to find anything that fit to try to get it to work to hold them over.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, Rick Spielman's like, screw this. And he took his eraser to the blackboard. Let's do it.
You guys can hate Rick Spielman for drafting Christian Ponder all you want, rightfully so. But here's a guy who had the balls to be like, I was wrong. I'm going to draft Teddy Bridgewater. And we're going to release Ponder after 4 seasons. He could have been a stubborn asshole and been like, no, we are going to ride Ponder for we're going to re-sign him to another 4-year contract because I believe it's going to work. He recognized that he messed up, he cut ties with him, and he brought in a considerably better replacement in Teddy Bridgewater.
And it's not just the quarterback position that stuff like that's been going in on. Mm-hmm. Letting go of Kevin Williams and drafting Sharif Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big step. Antoine Winfield leaving and Xavier Rhodes coming in. It's all about this youth movement and building through these people that just have this amazing athletic talent.
Remember at the time when we traded Percy Harvin, there was a lot of people who went, well, we're trading away a good portion of our offense. And they didn't want to see Percy go. But he's what? He was basically hurt his entire time as a Seahawk.
Right.
Got a Super Bowl ring, but really didn't. What they gave up for him was not worth it. He goes to the Jets, doesn't even stick around with the Jets. Now he's with Rex Ryan in Buffalo. Essentially, going back to special teams, he essentially made Buffalo on his ability to be a dynamic, kickoff return player.
Yeah.
And that's it. And look at what we got. What we get for Percy. I don't even remember, but
1-3-7.
That was a lot of shit to get for Percy Harvin.
1-3-7.
Yeah. So
unbelievable.
I love what Spielman is doing with this team. And yeah, he's made some mistakes. Whatever. Put yourself in his position. Who wouldn't make a couple mistakes? And that is an incredibly hard thing to do because you are under scrutiny from everyone. The minute you make any decision, as soon as the Vikings announce who they have drafted with that number 11 overall pick, there will be people on Twitter saying that the Vikings messed up, Rick Spielman should be fired, and that we're doomed as a franchise.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I saw it when Anthony Barr was drafted.
Yep.
How are they going to take this player that doesn't fit into our schemes? What are they going to do, make him a defensive end? You know, there were just tons of people not really understanding.
There was
I admit, when I was doing evaluation on Anthony Barr, I wasn't sure how he was going to fit. But the coaching staff has this way of figuring. They know where they would use a guy, how they can best utilize his talents, and just drafting these athletic freaks.
Here's the difference. I say this like there's one difference, but here's the difference between Rick Spielman and someone like me. I get influenced, even though you don't want to admit it, but I get influenced by what you see on ESPN and what you hear from Skip Bayless and whoever else and whatever. And that all influences and builds up in our minds as to what we think the Vikings should do. Because not all of us do what you do, Adam, and that is sit down and try to scout different players and form your own opinion without outside influences. So
True.
for a lot of people, you get very knee-jerk sold on something, and there was not maybe but one mock draft that had the Vikings taking Anthony Barr in it. So when the Vikings draft Anthony Barr, the immediate reaction on Twitter was, who?
Yeah, what?
Who?
We could have had him halfway down the round.
Yeah, but guess what? That was the correct decision. Maybe they should have drafted Teddy there and hoped for Anthony to slide and trade up and get him later, but it ended up working out. But
my favorite example of that is, if you ever have the chance, go online and look up Nick Swardson at his draft party. He's at a bar, he's watching the draft, and the Vikings are on the clock. The Vikings, of course, select Anthony Barr.
Mm-hmm.
He flips out. He is swearing, he's yelling, he's talking about how the Vikings are going to fail because they didn't draft the player he wanted, how the whole organization is messed up, how they're not willing to take a chance to succeed, and how not drafting Johnny Football was going to ruin their future.
Yep. Because at the time, like I said, we're fans, guys. We get influenced by shit that we probably shouldn't get influenced by. You get sold on the idea of Johnny Manziel. Maybe not so much the player, but the idea of Johnny Manziel. Right. But, hey, when Anthony Barr won us that game on, what was it, the first play in overtime? The stripped fumble recovery, whatever. I don't remember exactly how it worked. But pretty sure that justified drafting Anthony Barr, right?
I think he showed enough potential to show that he was well worth that selection.
He's a guy that I think you should be looking for having a breakout season next year as well, too.
That's true.
Under the radar.
Definitely. That's all I have for this week. Do you have anything else you wanted to add in?
I've just been, improv-ing this whole show, Adam.
It's been a lot of fun. It has. Yeah. We've actually just been talking about football.
We really
people talking about football.
We really didn't have much wrote down for notes this week, and we just kind of went on the fly with this. But I like that. We should do that more often.
And I hope you guys had a good time listening. Remember to head on over to Twitter at Purple People Pod. Talk to Kyle over there. Facebook, the Purple People Podcast page. Leave us some comments. Send us some messages. Me and Mr. Kyle Smith will be handling that side of things. And remember to stay classy, Minnesota.
Before you stay classy, I have to say that if you're a Walking Dead fan, you should also check out undeadwalking.com because it's the best damn Walking Dead website on the internet.
It is absolutely exploding right now.
Yes, and it is a great way to get all your info for the new spin-off show and to get rumors for the new season that's coming up, because I know we're all excited for that, right, Adam?
Oh, season 6 coming up, and Fear the Walking Dead. It's going to be great.
You betcha. So now everyone can stay classy. San Diego.
Oh.